Good afternoon. In this video, we're going to go over this week's options watch list. Before I get into the watch list, if you're not in the room, you can find the link in the description of the video and in my bio section of social media accounts. Also, this week is probably going to be a very tricky, volatile week because of, obviously, we still have the conflict with Russia and Ukraine, and that will be primarily news driven. We have FOMC on Wednesday, so that will be a big mover. Now, the market could be very choppy until news headlines drop from the conflict, so we probably won't get much action unless news headlines end up dropping. That could probably be the primary mover this week. Otherwise, it could just chop up until FOMC. Now, the market, in my opinion, I think it's already priced in the 25 basis points they've been speculating. So this is just my 2 cents of what I think is going to happen on this FOMC. Now, if they do raise it 25 cents, the market may freak out a little bit, but could end up possibly popping because they were saying initially that there was going to be more than 25 cents. They were going to actually, at 0.25, they were actually going to go up a full point. So the market freaked out about that. But if they're only going to go 25, I think the market might not freak out as bad and might actually look at that as somewhat positive. Market's weird like that, but if they go more than 25, the market's gonna dump. If they go no changes whatsoever, then the market's probably gonna end up freaking out and just raging. So I think it's gonna be all dependent on what they do. So I personally think they're not gonna raise rates because they're gonna use the Russia-Ukraine conflict as an excuse not to raise rates, saying the markets are too fragile right now, and it would freak out the markets even more than what they are. So I think that's going to be what's I think is going to happen. But if they do raise rates and it's more than 25 points, the market's just going to end up the market's going to freak out and probably go under 400. But we'll have to see what happens with the Fed, what news drops this week. So I know that right now the Ukraine and Russia are having more talks and they're saying it's constructive, but every time they say it's constructive or it's going good or something like that, more places are getting bombed and more people are getting killed, and the conflict is escalating, even though they're saying that the talks are going well or going somewhat positive. It's just missiles are flying all over the place from India to Iraq. Now just everything's just going complete chaos today. So also kind of lost track what I was about to say. We also have NATO threatening that if Poland gets attacked or anything like that or hit, that they're going to step up. So I mean, all this war talk is like escalating, even though they're saying Ukraine and Russia's talks are somewhat constructive. It just doesn't seem that way because what they're talking and what's visually happening is two different things. So I'm not going to get too involved with that because the market's we're going to have to use the headlines and just play the market reactions to the headlines, because I'm not going to get too in depth with the watch list. I get the few tickets I usually watch. I'll post my thoughts and stuff like that, but this week's going to be tricky with FOMC and the conflict, so we'll just have to wait and react to the news as it comes. That's why you need to be in the room, because all it takes is one headline or one thing to happen and the market's gonna dump or it's gonna rip just off that headline. So but the levels I'd be watching regardless of what happened, good or bad. If it does get over the 425 area, I'd watch for a push to 430, 435, 440. If the Fed does say something positive, I think that the market could really rip to 450, 460 really, really fast if it doesn't raise rates. Now, if the conflict or other bad things happen this week, I would watch SPY underneath this 415 level. It does get in the 415. The daily you have what? Yeah, 415 right there. You mean it's up to 420, but SPY. The thing that I really can't stand with SPY is that it ends up having these monster gap up and gap downs, and by the time things open, it's hard to figure out which way it's going to go because you just have these massive gap up and gap downs, and that's why you kind of got to wait till the morning to see what's going to actually end up happening. So, with that said, big 415 level, then the 410. It gets below the 410. I mean, you got 400 will be a big psychological number, and if that ends up breaking, I mean, you got the 395, you get the 390, 385. So it could be lookout below. So yeah, I would SPY, but no, some of the ones I'd be watching, if market does do pretty good, they could have a little bit of a nice bounce. One is Snap. I mean, Snap did come back up and it did drop the last couple weeks, but it's been sitting right at this 28 low, and it's been bouncing right here, but it's kind of got like a little bit of a head and shoulders right here, if you want to say, like a left shoulder right here and the head right there and the right shoulder. So I mean, it could end up going dropping more to probably even 20, but I would watch it over 30, 31 for push to 32, 34. Let's get a little gap fill right there at 33. So 34 could be a nice little area. You could get a nice little bounce out of Snap. BA, no. BA had dropped a little bit, then it came back up, then right here Friday had a nice red day. But look at the on the weekly though, it's testing the RCT trend line. It popped, and the bottom of the Keltner channel, it popped. Every time it hits the bottom of the Keltner channel and the RCT trend line, which is this orange line, it likes to bounce. So we'll have to see if it can actually bounce this week over 180 for push to 184, 185. Now, if it does manage to get over 185, it can bounce to 190, 195. Probably 200 be the big psychological number for it, but have to see what Boeing will do. Now, when I say these levels, all these can change in a matter of overnight or in a matter of one news event. So that's why you need to be in the room. Roku is another one. Roku just cannot get any momentum. Like, it's hard to believe that this was almost a $500 stock last year, and yeah, it's at 100. It's really ridiculous how low it is. Now, I'd watch it obviously over, you get it's down to the 100 level, but over 120 for a push to 140. 140 seems to be a spot it stalls out at. That if it does manage to get over the 140, 145, get the 150 being big psychological number, then you get the 155, 160. 165, then you get the 175 right here. Roku has just been making a downward channel for. You could probably just draw that. I bet you I could probably draw that. That's probably perfect from here. Look at that. It's practically perfect right there. Crazy. I'll just leave that there. So yeah, it needs to get out of this. I've never seen a line straight down like that do that. But yeah, if it does manage to get over this 125, 130 area, it's got some room to run. Now, Roku is one that likes to ignore what SPY is doing and just do its own thing. So it can also have a 40-point day, and it hasn't had one in a very long time. So that I would keep an eye out on. Now, Tesla, I don't usually put on the watch list, but I'd be watching this either way because it's kind of down here at the 780 level, and it does like to bounce a little bit down here. It bounced a little there, fell through, and it did rebound a little bit. Now it's done. I mean, you can watch this either way. I'd watch it over the 861 for push to 900. It gets over 900. You get the 940, 35, 940 area. Then 1,000 would be the big psychological number. But I'd also watch underneath the 780. If it does manage to break the 780 and the market is weak, and watch for a push down to the 760, 740. Even down to the 700 area again. So a lot of these stocks are going to be very market dependent, except for Roku. Roku could kind of care less about it, but I'm watching both of those. I'm mentioning these tickers because I'm going to watch them in both directions, up and down, but prefer up, unlike Snap and Roku and BA. But Tesla could go either way. Tesla hasn't really dropped quite that much. So Netflix. Now Netflix had a massive dump from earnings. It is, kind of broke through support right here of the 350. Now it's down to 340. I'm not quite sure how much further it can go. I mean, anytime you think that it can't go any further, it just defies the odds and keeps going lower. So, I mean, Roku and Snap and Netflix, and they just, you think that they find the bottom and they just don't. They just keep going. So, I mean, if it doesn't really hold this 340 level, I mean, you got 335, 325, you got 300. I mean, it's crazy to think that Netflix would get to 300, but anything is possible. I mean, get to 300, even the 250 level. I mean, I have no idea. It depends on what happens with SPY, but I would rather watch it for a pop. I mean, than anything. It's so beaten down. I mean, the RSI is in the low 20s. And you can also see the RSI on the daily. It's you get bullish divergence going on because the RSI is increasing as the price is decreasing. So I would watch it over the daily's got like what is that 340, 360 is kind of high. I mean, I'd watch it over 350 for pushing 350 to 360 to 370. Basically every $10, 380, 390, 400. So Netflix, like Roku, I mean, it's gonna bounce eventually, but I've been expecting Roku to bounce for like months now, and it just does not want to bounce. And anytime it does, it's short-lived. So Facebook is another one. Facebook's had its issues, not just with earnings, but with other news-related stuff that is just not doing that well. So I was thinking it was going to bounce last week. It started to a couple weeks ago, then it got shut down. So I would watch it over, let's see, 190. You can say 191 for pushing 195. 200 be a big psychological number. 205, 210, 215. So we're just getting into uncertain territory here because we don't know. Usually we could go by technical analysis and say it's going to bounce here, it's going to do that, it's going to do this here. And the problem is we got FOMC, we have the Russia-Ukraine situation, then we have Iran shooting missiles in Iraq, then you have North Korea shooting missiles, then you have a potential with Taiwan and China. I mean, you have all these uncertain things going on in the world that you don't know what's going to happen, and that you try to play these technical analysis on a headline-driven market, you're just going to get smashed. So play the headlines. Try not to put too much value in the technical analysis right now until events that are driving the market kind of go away, or the market gets to a point where it starts ignoring them. Because back in the China trade deal, anytime they mentioned China trade deal, the market would freak out, it would pop, it would drop every single time, then it would stop after a while, just like, yeah, whatever, we've heard this song and dance before, we're going to start ignoring it. The same thing with COVID, every time they posted COVID numbers or lockdown or any other things related to COVID, the market would freak out. Then after a while, it just started ignoring it and not caring anymore. At some point, either the conflict's gonna get resolved, or eventually the market is just going to start ignoring it and start grinding back up and ignoring the headlines, unless something really, really major ends up happening that the market could end up stop ignoring it and reacting to it again. So this is just very uncertain trading times right now. I mean, a lot of people are getting wrecked and don't know what to do. That's just why being a day trader, you play day by day, be patient, wait for headlines, wait for just being patient is all you can do, and try to do the best you can. And you just can't look too long term right now, because we gotta wait for these events to get resolved so we can get back to business as usual. But until then, just keep shorting the pops and be in the room. That's all I can say. And that's going to do it for the watch list. And I know I rambled a lot, talked more about what's going on with Russia and Ukraine and FOMC than actually talking about the stocks. But right now, that's what's driving the market. And that's the market we have, and that's the market we get to play. And we're just little puppets in this game. So that's going to do it. So thank you for watching.